If home is where the heart is, then the decision to move to a new town, city, country, or continent is not one to be taken lightly. No, ladies and gentlemen, this is not to be taken lightly. After all, what we derive our sense of home from is hard to define, and often a concept that perhaps becomes very elusive. When people speak about Toronto, they speak about it very positively. When I hear people speaking about Toronto, Ontario, Canada, normally I get a very favorable response. Like, wow, Toronto's so beautiful. The nature is incredible and the people are so friendly. Today, we're going to be discussing the good, the bad, and the ugly of living in Toronto. And we're going to start right now. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Pamela Haines from Homes by Pam and powered by Keller Williams Portfolio Realty in Toronto. If you're new to my channel, please be sure to hit that subscribe button and also the notification button so I can share some more great videos like this with you in the future. And I don't want you to miss any. So just briefly, a little bit about my experience in Toronto. I moved to Toronto to complete my internship at St. Michael's Hospital in downtown Toronto, just in time to be here in 1993 for the Toronto Blue Jays World Series win. It was pretty amazing. I remember exactly where I was. I think I was studying in a library. After having no intention of staying beyond my internship, I remember looking at the concrete jungle of this city, this great city we live in, and the frigid winters, experiencing the smoldering summers, and thinking, you know, I think I'll find a somewhere better place to live. And then, over 28 years later, I've never looked back. I would later go on to meet a guy who I would later marry, and he continues to be my husband till this day. And also, you know, it seemed like something magical happened, and overnight, seemingly, Toronto became a world-class city. A place where the NBAers want to hang out, and a place where Jay-Z comes to find producers, and where multi-millionaires often find their fifth condo to call home. Toronto has actually been identified as the best place to live in the world. And that's not me saying it. Nope, that's not me. Although I do like Toronto. I've been here for over 27 years. So The Economist, which is a well-respected publication, named Toronto as the best place to live in the world, which is amazing. And this was based on 6 indices. And to name a couple, one was based on the business environment and the safety of Toronto. Metropolis, which is an architectural and design publication, also called Toronto as a most livable place. And Vogue also named Toronto as one of the best places with the coolest neighborhoods. Toronto by far is the best global business and financial hub. Toronto is undisputed financial capital of Canada, or the 5th largest in North America. Our stock exchange is the 7th largest in the world. The World Economic Forum singled Toronto banks as the soundest on the planet for 7 whole years in a row. Toronto is the headquarters for the country's 5 largest banks. And for the budding entrepreneur, a lot of large companies do their business here, which is great. In Toronto, there's a huge focus on entrepreneurship. And this is thanks to many available incubators. The city is actually Canada's #1 startup hub. Toronto has the best food markets in the world. One of the best food markets? You named it. Yes, it goes without saying. It's our St. Lawrence Market. The National Geographic named St. Lawrence Market as the world's best food market. And this is definitely a huge tourist hit, destination for shopping, and one of the best people watching places you'll ever find. Toronto is a city of neighborhoods. There's a neighborhood for everyone. There's the best of the Greek on the Danforth. There's cherry tree blossoms throughout High Park. And we have the beaches area that has the best beaches in Toronto. And then, of course, the pierogies in Roncesvalles. Each neighborhood has something for everyone. The size of a city is obviously very important when choosing a place to live. Living in the most populous city obviously has some advantages. For instance, the public transportation is much more efficient. There's huge diversity, especially in Toronto. It's a very diverse city. The museums, there's tons of museums, tons of food options, and there's a real eclectic feel in Toronto. So in Toronto, there's a huge live music scene. If live music is your jam, no pun intended of course, then Toronto is definitely the place to be. There's a major outdoorsy act and it's called the Budweiser Stage, if you haven't heard of it. It's really fun to go to and attend different concerts, and or if you want some more intimate venues, there's great music and a variety of genres all over the place throughout the city. Toronto is geographically located as an advantageous city in terms of visiting other major cities. For instance, it's a short plane ride if you want to go anywhere in the world because it's a major hub. It's very convenient. It's very easy to get around Toronto as well. Although many locals bemoan the Toronto Public Transit, which is called TTC, the main methods are using the streetcar, which is what our little tram is called, and also the subway. Toronto links to suburbia, which is called the GTA, with trains. There's huge connections to Montreal, Ottawa, Niagara, anywhere you can actually imagine. You can get these small areas outside of Toronto. Now, it might look like a small dot on a map, but it could take a whole day to travel there. Travel is very expensive in Toronto. For instance, a sleeper berth on a train, the mighty Canadian CN, will set you back about $2,000 to go to Vancouver, which is the same cost it would set you back to go to London. You want to go to Niagara-on-the-Lake, this will easily set you back about $1,000 for a weekend. Niagara-on-the-Lake is outside of Toronto. Toronto is a very multicultural city. It's the perfect introduction to Canada in my mind. As Canada's biggest city, it's also, like I said, very diverse. You can find a multitude of different cultures. There's so many cultures and traditions, and it's so nice to see the different cultural groups bring their traditions to Toronto. It's like a huge melting pot within the city. There's so many different neighborhoods, and at any given time, you can find easily over 140 different languages, at least in the city in Toronto. When we're considering sports, hockey is the sacrosanct sport of Toronto. Torontonians are very proud of the Maple Leafs. And if you're not a hockey fan, you're a basketball fan, there's the Raptors, or for soccer, the Toronto FC. There's a thriving arts culture and a hugely rich art scene. From ballet to opera to the musical theater, Toronto has it all. Toronto hosts a variety of companies, and Toronto puts on a variety of shows. And the quality of Toronto's productions is amazing. There's a plethora of things to do in Toronto, from the farmers markets to food festivals to green spaces. The Toronto Islands, you can set out for a day trip to the Toronto Islands on the ferry. Now the bad. Toronto summers can be smoldering hot. It's funny because many Torontonians will don their shorts midwinter, regardless of what the outside temperature is. It can be like -10, and there's always the token person walking around in shorts. The cost of living has been creeping up steadily over recent years, and this is particularly as the population increases because of a supply and demand issue. Housing is very expensive in Toronto. Now the average home is over $1 million. And if you don't have a car, you're traveling by TTC, a pass will cost you $160. But owning a car can be very expensive as well. When we're not in a pandemic, any self-respecting Torontonian heads over the border to get their clothes. They go usually to Buffalo. Another bad is the construction. Seems to be going on all the time in Toronto. As Toronto has soared in popularity as a place to live, it's quickly run out of places for the new and the old comers to live, especially affordable places to live. So this isn't surprising. There's always new construction happening. It's hard to keep enough construction going with the rising city population. The skyline of Toronto is constantly peppered with cranes, which are loud, which can be dusty and dirty. The food scene in Toronto, well, Toronto is a foodie destination, to put it lightly, with a wide range of cuisines. And there's cutting edge eateries in Toronto, which have been inspired from around the world. There's such an eclectic quality of food in Toronto. But the quality of ingredients is an issue because given Toronto's soil is frozen much of the year, it's pretty difficult to grow much food that tastes great without artificial help, like from greenhouses, and or most of the food is often imported from the US or other places. So that can be an issue. Now, the Canada that you've seen often on Instagram is not Ontario. Generally, what we've seen and what we've found is when people think of Canada and the beauty of Canada, they're thinking of Banff, Lake Louise, the Rockies. So that's not surprising because that's, that's really the beauty of Canada. But Toronto is still beautiful. It's just not like that. Toronto has great parks like Hyde Park, Sunnybrook, among other parks. And accessing the countryside around Toronto can be really difficult without a vehicle. Then you better be sure to book well in advance because it's really difficult and you have to have pretty deep pockets to rent a cottage. The job market in Toronto can be really tough, especially for new immigrants. Very well-educated immigrants who come here for a better life find the Toronto market really tough. Essentially, it's important for these new Canadians to get experience and study in Canada and get this experience in order to even have a chance in being considered for any of these jobs. So now the ugly. Toronto's winters are relatively mild by Canadian standards, with lows reaching about minus 30 degrees during an average winter. And Toronto's winters can actually have a real impact on your quality of life while you're living here. So for instance, if you're living downtown, it can be really windy. There can be wind tunnels, and this can bring Arctic gusts around these tall buildings. And it creates like this piercing chill as you wait for the streetcar if you don't have a car. You need some serious winter wear made from down, which will set you back a few $100s. But at least you'll be warm. And you need a coat to cover your thighs and a hood, a hat, and a good set of gloves and boots. And that way you can handle all the snow. And this is definitely a must. So much of Toronto seems to actually hibernate in the winter for some reason. I personally love going cross-country skiing and skating and that kind of thing, but somehow social activities come to a halt. So there's no doubt that living in Toronto and Canada in general offers a great quality of life. So if you're thinking of moving to Toronto, this could be the place for you. It has so much to offer. And the crime levels are low, it's a very safe city, and the healthcare is awesome. The only thing that's really missing from Toronto seems to be the calm and cool, slow-paced joy in the streets of Toronto. It's always fast-paced, and whether the slow pace means reading a morning paper or sitting in the sunshine, enjoying a fresh cup of coffee, or listening to the sound of kids playing in the street, the slow pace of those things are sometimes missing in Toronto. I hope you've enjoyed this content. I've tried to provide you a broad overview of what Toronto is about. This is Pamela Haines from Homes by Pam, helping you with your real estate matters.